All right, everyone. Hello and welcome to the voice chat. Today we have a very special guest, Britta Görtz. And any second now, she's gonna join in. So I want to thank everyone who's gonna show up today. It was actually my intention to have another singer with me this weekend, but it was not possible, so Britta was kind enough to join in. Britta sent a request to join in live. I had lots and lots of troubles with this last time, so let's just hope that things work out now. Last time I had to accept this a million times. Yes, accept. Accept. I'm letting you in! Ah! I had lots and lots of trouble with this last time, but finally!
Yes! Yes! Hello, David!
Hello! I was starting to get real worried.
Thanks for letting me in.
Finally! Very welcome.
Thank you so much.
And
how are you?
I'm fine. It's Sunday evening, and this is the second round today. I get to nerd out on vocals. I haven't been teaching anything, but I had like a networking meeting or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
This afternoon, and so good day.
Nice.
And how about you?
Nice. I had a wonderful day. A student of mine from Berlin came over today. We recorded the almost last track for an album that they are doing, and tomorrow is the last recording day for them. So yeah, I'm checking all the vocals and editing all the vocals before it goes into the studio. So yeah, it feels good. So I had a busy day with a student today. Yeah, so it was good.
Yeah, and also thank you once again for joining in. This was kind of a short notice, or like shorter than I would like it to be, because I was actually going to have another singer on.
Yeah.
But then when it wasn't possible, I sent out to some of the people that were like on my list of people that I would like to have a chat with. And you just joined in, and I was very happy that you were able to do it.
Yeah, me too. And the funny thing is, like a couple of weeks ago, I was on a longer vacation, and I have this little format I used to do when the pandemic was there, called Britta's Tavern Talk, and
The
you
Tavern
are
Talk.
on my list for 2024 as well. So like I was just like, hey, that's a cool coincidence.
All right. Yeah, I watched a little bit of those of the Tavern Talks. So I actually knew you were like familiar with the format. But
Yeah.
was that like a pandemic thing?
Yeah, I mean, I started it during the pandemic because I started to miss my musician friends. The people that you automatically run into once or twice a year at least on festivals and so on. And like I was like, I don't see anyone. Like let's chat online. And then I did a couple of those. But I know Sunday is a good day for these kind of things, but sometimes like Sundays for musicians, the drill as also.
Yeah. Also, like Sunday evenings is okay, both like in Europe and America. So
So
Yeah.
I have a time limit on Instagram and TikTok set on my on my on my mobile phone, and it just like came in, time is up.
Yeah.
Like, no, not
I
today.
I have a 30-minute one on Instagram too, but I kind of wrecked that earlier today. So,
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, like the pandemic talk is almost getting a bit old, but like what like the British Tavern talk was one of the things that you did, but was there anything else like that the 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 catalyst that was the pandemic for a lot of other things? Was there anything else that kind of took off for you during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, we formed a band and wrote an album and got it out. So, like Hyris just formed during the pandemic, and we wrote an album together. And I was kind of lucky enough to be able to dive into a completely new thing during the pandemic. So the first year of the pandemic for me felt like I don't want to say non-existent. That's unfair, but it felt like it was not so bad for me because I had room and space to experiment with my new toy, Iris.
Yeah, yeah, and that
So yeah.
I mean, in the future when we're looking back at it, I think that having that kind of positive way of looking at it, I mean, for some, it of course it wasn't positive at all, but you know what I mean. Like if we can see it like a new start or like the birth of something, or so that was one of the questions that was gonna ask you, like what did the pandemic do to you? But yeah, I mean, forming a band and recording an album and releasing it is passable.
Yeah, it barely passes, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like as bad as it all was, like I don't wanna beauty wash anything about it, but I'm a person. I try to find a positive aspect in challenges. I'm trying to find something, and for a creative person, a challenge is always a catalyst for something productive. And if you can put that on it, it kind of like it doesn't feel so bad anymore. It feels like usable for something, substance for creativity. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I did.
But would you say that Hyris was something like that was kind of dormant inside of you, something that like the pandemic allowed you to release in a way? Because I know you were asked to join like after the old band kind of reformed, but I mean, was it something that like was it for you like finally?
No, but I'm pretty sure Hyris would have emerged and written an album anyway, because like the original contact that they did with me was before the pandemic, pretty much right before the pandemic, but it was before. But the album Solitary would have sounded differently, and the lyrical topics would have been different, and also maybe like time wise and emotion wise I would have just like put myself into it in a different way. So the album is called Solitary because I felt very solitary during that time. That's a simple plain fact about this.
But I mean,
So,
I mean, vocal wise, I mean, most of this little discussion will of course be
mhm.
about the vocals, but like, so to dive into that a little bit, was there anything when you started out with High Race that like, oh, now I can finally do this and that? I mean, that wasn't like like that wasn't as good in the context that was Critical Mass or Cripper.
Yes, it did not feel it started to feel like a release after I did it. At first, it felt like, well, okay, so the way I look at harsh vocals, you have like two different singing strategies that you can apply to it. two basic different strategies. And one strategy is to use your vocals more like a percussion instrument, where everything is like formed around bright and dark, but more or less around the same tonality. And the other way is like to apply it on melodies and to sing actually like, you know, like some more melodic stuff. And finally, I was given the chance, or I had the chance to apply that to a more melodic environment and use my harsh vocals in a different way. But I have to admit that the first attempts that I made felt like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? It sounds horrible. And the very first song that I recorded for them, I recorded twice, because like I just threw it away afterwards, and I was like, okay, I need to have a different approach here. I need to sit down and have a look at it, why it's not coming together. I mean, it wasn't a bad vocal performance, but it just felt like one thing and another thing, and it didn't, you know, it didn't find a good connection.
It didn't merge.
So then, yeah, it didn't merge at all. So then, and then I had to kind of like, you know, put on my working clothes and just get to it. And so now it feels like a release, and now it feels like I've grown as a musician, and it feels like I could use my harsh vocals in a way that wasn't fitting to any of my previous musical projects. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, finally, yeah. But now it feels good, and back then it felt like, oh shit.
Yeah. Just give me a second. I'm gonna turn off the fan here because it's getting real loud.
Hi everyone watching. Cool to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen many friends and many unknowns joining in. So, for each and every one, I'm watching at my iPad at the same time. So, if you have any questions, ask them, and we'll see if we can answer them in some kind of way.
Yeah, some kind of way.
Usually when we do this, it's, you know, we're just blabbing away. But let's see how structured we can be, or unstructured. I think it's interesting, no matter what.
But I have a question for you, because I mean, what I see from you come from clean melodic vocals, but you also tried out harsh vocals and you recorded them not too long ago. And so what is for you the main difference between performing clean vocals and harsh vocals? What's the main difference for you?
The boring and kind of obvious answer is that you don't have to worry about pitch. but yeah, that's probably it. And I've been, you know, I've always been, like I've seen you talk about in interviews also, you know, always making silly noises ever since I was a kid. And, you know, always imitating me in the cartoons, and, you know, on a, you know, whatever it is. You know,
why
I don't know.
Why don't we continue the interview like that? Is it an audience?
Yes. It would probably be irritating after a while, but I don't know. Down in Germany, because it's spread, at least up here in the north, you know, all the Astrid Lindgren, the Pippi Longstockings, and
yes.
Ronja
Räubertochter, yeah.
There, that was I still remember my first harsh vocal experience. It was,
Wieso tun Sie so?
Was it for me?
Yeah, but the really scary birds, in Swedish they're called vildvittror. And like,
There's something with, yeah.
All the Swedes will recognize. I will send you a clip of it later. So I've always done the noises, and then of course I've been singing, you know, melodic or clean vocals or whatever you want to call it for ages. And then also a pandemic thing. A common friend of ours, Adrienne Cowan, she did a lot of her like online rehearsals, and, you know, everyone, yeah. So you did it, I did it. I started these voice chats. You did the tavern talk, and she did the Twitch thing. So we did because she is a student of mine, we did a lesson exchange on Twitch. So I had a lesson. So first she had a lesson, like a normal lesson, like we do, and then I had a screaming lesson because, like I said, I've always been able to make the noises, and like in a metal cover band we had, I was fooling around with some stuff, but I never thought about doing it in a real musical content. So for that, I took like a couple of songs, and she like helped me see how I can make music out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I fooled around, and I eventually like, well, then I must record a Dimmu Borgir song. So I did, and I posted it online. And like a week after, a friend of mine wrote me like, "Hey, David, we've got a black metal album ready, but no singer. How would you like to try to sing it?" And I was like, I thought they were joking. I was like, well, yes, of course I could try. And I tried one song, and I recorded it in like 30 minutes, and I sent it off, and I thought it was so bad. And I felt it was so easy. I almost felt like I was cheating. So, and they were like, wow, amazing, really? But so that's how I ended up doing it. And I've always been, with teaching vocals generally, that's what I've been doing for 15 years. It's my day job, but I always felt like, up until the pandemic at least, like a little bit of a gatekeeping going on in the extreme singing community, because I've watched the Melissa Cross stuff and all of that, but I felt like when I started to teach, it was a lot of, all the terminology. For me, it was new terminology, and it was like, well, I don't know this, so I kind of backed off a bit and like, I mean, the amount of time that I need to dive into this, it really didn't feel worth it. But then, after a while, after I tried out and with some students that I really trusted, I just started to treat it just like any other kind of singing. Like, how does it feel? How do you think it sounded? Like the foundation of the teaching. Like, how was it? How did you feel about it? What if we try this, try that? And that's when it all kind of for me.
Yeah, you could ease into it.
Yes, and I didn't feel limited as a teacher in a way. But I wanted to go back to the making noises thingy, and when did you go from making noises for fun into singing? Like, what age are we talking now? Like, when you started to sing?
Pretty late. I tried so many things, and I liked so many things, and singing kind of was always something that I felt I was not able to do. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, I can make all these noises, why not scream? And then it was like just rolling down a hill. So I started, well, the first time I sang in a band, I was probably 20 or 22, so pretty late. And then I joined Crippa, or we formed Crippa when I was 24. I was the third member on board, and that was my first vocal gig where I was the front person.
All right. So
yeah, and so I just started there pretty late, but
Did you play any instruments as a kid?
No, nothing in a really sophisticated way. I mean, I started to play the flute. I started to play guitars. I picked up a bass guitar. I mean drums. I had lessons in drums for a while, but I never had lessons in anything else. And so singing came to me really without a foundation of an instrument. And like maybe like 1.5 years ago, I picked up piano on a more serious way, but not in terms of becoming a piano player, but just being able to support my voice better than I was able to previously. So no, I come from a very non-musical family, from a very non-musical environment, and I am the weird one in our family when it comes to trying new things. So I'm like, everyone just went that way, and I'm like, okay, I like it over here.
Yeah. But I mean, so for you, it was kind of a big leap going from making noises on your own to like actually performing with a band.
Not really a big leap. It was just that I had never seen this as a performable instrument before. And it was, I think, when I saw Mike Patton perform for the first time, where I thought, damn it. Like he's making a bunch of noises, and for the first time I thought that I could do something with my voice in an artistic way. So that was kind of like the change of perspective was the big leap, and everything else was kind of natural then.
Yeah, and I mean but we don't have to discuss age, but both of us are not super young anymore.
Yeah, I'm turning 46 next week. Oh my God.
Happy birthday in advance.
Yeah, thank you.
So, but so, I mean, but what you said it.
Yeah.
Not me. But yeah. So we started out before the internet was like a big thing, and like now, if you want to find someone playing a fucking Middle Eastern nose flute in a metal band, you can find it. Everything is out there, you know. Or like this guy who plays, like we have the Swedish dude who Mattias Eklund, who plays with a dildo, you know, on the guitar. We have everything. It's out there. And I remember meeting him when I was like 15, 16. We were opening for them, and it was like I didn't know who they were, and it was like, this guy is like super weird. But that was like the weirdest thing I ever experienced. You know, you didn't see as much things. So, you know, speaking of like making music with your, you know, there was like one weird kid who listened to that kind of music, and since we didn't have Spotify, you know, or YouTube, you couldn't check it out. You just heard the noise in the background of the party, and it's like, I don't know what that is. So the resources and like the everything, we didn't know what was out there.
I think with the internet and all the availability of people doing things that we can like see what they're doing, it's a trade-off, because the boredom I felt as a teenager sparked so many things I tried out. And nowadays I sometimes think, okay, you now have all the resources to teach you how to do something better and how to improve and whatever. But I think also like the way that, including me, we experience things through someone else's eyes, kind of like keeps us from experiencing it ourselves. And sometimes there's also this barrier, because if like 100 people who are brilliant screamers explain how to scream online and you sound like shit, you maybe just don't want to even try. You know, so that it also creates barriers. If I see like a yoga teacher like being in a position where I think like I don't even know where to start,
yeah,
then I just like, okay, I'm not sure if this is for me. So it's a trade-off. Like, yes, wow, cool internet, we get all these crazy ideas, but on the other hand, like as a teenager with your dumb and naive mind, you just like do it.
Yeah, we were allowed to be dumb and naive, because you know, when I was like 13 when we released our first demo in a band. And you know, I played the bass, and you know, we just released it in like 100, you know, 100 CDs that we handed out or sold to like friends and family and stuff. And we knew that we didn't sound like Metallica, but we didn't know that we really sucked. And like the worst thing that happened perhaps was that someone from the neighbor town heard it and said, "Well, these guys sucks." But I never heard anyone say that, so we just kept going. But nowadays, if you release a demo, if you release it on Spotify or whatever, or SoundCloud, I mean, potentially in 24 hours you can have like 1 million people telling you how much you suck.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I since I didn't know all of that, I could just, move on. And in this little world that was my world, in a very small town, I could just, keep on doing what I like to do. So
Yeah.
the downside was not having all the information, but the upside was, not being allowed to be that naive.
Yeah,
But
it felt more adventurous to explore on your own and to make your own conclusions from it. And nowadays, especially with screaming, I see that the element of fear is a good marketing tool. So everyone is telling everyone like, don't start without a teacher, you will ruin your voice forever. And I'm like, where are all these metal singers that ruined their voices forever? I mean, there are a few, same way with clean singers. Yeah. But I mean, like, it's like,
yeah. I mean, speaking of that, have you ever had like any serious voice problems?
Oh yes, not from singing though, but I had nodules on my vocal cords. I was working many hours a week in as a telemarketer on a telephone, selling things to people that they did not want to buy. And I was studying, and I had to finance my university somehow. So I was sitting there telling everyone how wonderful this product was that I was just advertising. And so I spoke with a very high energy and all this happy energy, and I had nodules on my voice. But I also at the same time I was also a screamer, and luckily the doctor I went to, he's also taking care of the singers in our opera here in Hanover. So he's like right next to it, and I went there, and he's like, "This does not look like you have that from singing." He's like, "Sing." And I sang, and it's like, "Scream," and I screamed, and he was looking at my voice, and he's like, "Now speak," and I spoke, and he's like, "That's the problem." So I had then speech therapy, and I had to work a lot on my soft onset and not to talk like that all the time. And then I had to shut up for 3 weeks, and then never had this problem in my life again. But that sparked a deeper interest in voice. And when I saw my voice, I was just like, holy shit, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This little thing vibrating all the time. And that had sparked the interest in like becoming a nerd.
Yeah. But interesting that you talked about the soft onsets, because that's probably most of or you're mostly talking about the speaking voice, like or like, oh, ach so, I don't know, but because when we scream, there's not I mean yeah, in a way it's a soft onset.
Yeah, and also like the main difference for me in a soft and a hard onset is like, where do I mean, there are these 3 levels of where you can hold the breath. You can hold the breath with your diaphragm, with not allowing it to move. You can hold the breath with like leaning against your closed cords, and you can hold the breath with your when you lean against your. So these are my 3 elements of holding a breath back. So, and the soft onset for me has a lot to do with holding the breath back in the area of the diaphragm, where you can have an open throat and start with an open throat. It does not need the element. You can have by holding it here, and if I lean onto here, it's like it's automatically hard. So that's what I learned in my speech therapy, is just like to not lean against the closed cords and then into it. So that's what I was taught. But yeah.
Yeah, because now when I started to think about it, when I do that, I feel like it feels the same as a onset wise. It feels the same way.
Yeah, I
But when I
totally
do
agree.
oh, that is definitely a hard onset, same as oh, oh,
Yeah.
Because I also noticed like it was some of your part of the instruction video where you do the like in one or two occasions. With it, do you consider that a nice way to find the closure of the true and false vocal folds?
I consider that a good way for a total beginner in singing who has no idea what they're doing, but this is just pointers for finding it and not for overusing this technique. It's more like there
There they are. Yeah.
before you can, you don't know your instrument and you looking for it in the dark because you can't see it. So you have to give someone like a very direct, here it is. Here it is. Like,
Yeah.
don't slap on it forever, but just like for finding the fry, because you need that closure. And then
Yeah.
like, Grandpa Simpson is here.
Yeah, I've been watching that a lot. I've been watching
wonderful.
recently. Yeah, it's always wonderful to watch all these old kind of cartoons.
Yeah.
And it's so
Screaming
cool.
has never heard my voice at all. Like, oh,
And Marge Simpson. Yeah, Marge. I can't even imagine how much he has, how much he's worked with her voice doing all of this.
Oh, I don't know.
No.
SMT.
This could be the rest of the live of this live. It's just making noises.
Yeah.
We speaking of that, there was a question some time back. Like, did we ever, any of us, especially in the very beginning, try to sound like any of our musical idols? And like, what is it? Yeah, if we tried to sound like a musical idol. I don't know about you, but for me it was not musical idols, it was the cartoon noises.
What's your favorite cartoon noise that you wanted to sound like?
It was probably Splinter from Turtles.
Oh!
And we have Krang.
Good one. Good one.
The brain, the guy who's just a brain. And he lives in Dimension X.
That was probably it. And Thundercats.
We had the mutants also, the Thundercats that sounded like this.
I can probably come up with tons more, but those were like the ones that I can remember off my head. And you?
No, I don't think that I had a vocal like a vocal idol in terms of I would like to sound like this or that person. For me, it was more like I want to try to be as creative as. It was more in terms of that. So sometimes when I was in awe of like people, for example, Björk, again, Mike Patton, they were so like, wow, they come up with so crazy ideas, and I'm not as, my musicality is not like theirs, but I was just like, okay, do not discriminate any idea that you have, try to bring it to life somehow, because there might be something in there. And especially in metal vocals and harsh vocals, especially, you are allowed to be ugly, creepy, and stuff like that. Whereas in most of the clean vocals that is popular right now, it has to be like kind of like beautiful. There's an expectation towards it as far as like note height and whatever. And I think in harsh vocals, it's like, okay, you have that voice, let's create a character around that. So it's a little more, for me, that was the fun part about harsh vocals. Like I can pretty much do everything and make it into a song.
Yeah, I mean, but did you, I mean, when you, now since we're talking back in the day for both of us, like when you got a hold of an album, like did you have your CD or vinyl on and like no wait rewinding like no that's it. Did you like try the sound noises and the sounds out, or how did it go from being noises to music?
Um, I grabbed the microphone and I made noises into it, and it sounded very monotonous, and I wanted to change that. So I was paying attention to a variety of singers and try to find why I was able to sing low and mid range, but I was not able to sing high. Now I know that this is fry what I was looking for. So I was trying to imitate this high pitched voice, but I did not know anyone personally who could make these voices. So I was trying around for that for a long time. So that was probably the first time that I thought I would love to be able to sing that, because I don't want to sound monotonous anymore. But nowadays, I think, in especially the last 10 years, maybe, harsh vocals and how many people are able to sing such a great technique, and it's enabling so many sounds on such a high level. I find myself many times like trying like, oh, there's a sound that I've never heard before. How did she do that? And then I try to find that. Also, my students throw questions at me. What is this person doing? What is he doing? What is she doing there? And I'm like, oh, okay, let's kind of like like try to reverse engineer that sound and come up with that. And so nowadays more than back in the days.
Yeah, but I mean that is also a phrase that I heard you use a little bit, like reverse engineering, like back up, like what is this? And I think that is like, is that something you do or have been doing? Is that like a character trait of you? Like, is that how you work when you eat? Like, oh, what is this? I have to learn how to make this delicious meal, and you back up and like, oh, they did like this and this and this.
Not in every kind of situation, but in singing especially. And maybe also in video editing, because I love to edit videos, and I love to play around with these kind of things. Those are probably two topics where I do a lot of these things, like how to achieve a certain goal, and just sharpen my own instrument with that. But especially in vocals, it's like when it comes, the biggest difference for me, harsh vocals and clean vocals, is that clean vocals is more or less based on pitch, which I look at this direction, so a high tone and a low tone, and the area of brightness and darkness that comes in as far as tone coloring plays an exaggerated role in harsh vocals, the way I look at it. So I try to listen to what is actually the overtones that we hear, how bright are they, and what is actually the pitch, and how to not mix both of them up, and how to healthily find ways to sing these high sounding things that are actually very bright and not mistake one for the other. So that's a thing. So ear training, so to say, in the overtone segment is one of my nerdiest hobbies.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's also very interesting, because like you say, especially in clean singing, stuff that aren't that high, can, if you adjust, like EQing your instrument, you can make it sound like it's very high.
Yes.
And the way I see it also, like there is always, or the way I started to see it now in harsh vocals, is that there is always, how do I phrase this? It's that every, to me at least, in my brain, every harsh vocal sound has like a clean vocal counterpoint, or like English. Yeah, like the not the opposite, but like there is a clean version of every harsh sound, at least in my brain. So when I hear it is you know, those to me are the same. They represent the same thing in me when I hear them.
And I think on an anatomical level, that is absolutely what is happening, because like the vocal cords have to close for the false cords to touch.
Yeah.
The false cords do not have muscles. So just because you don't hear a pitch does not mean that there is not a pitch in it, because a healthy voice will always close when the false cords come together. So like the false cords vibrate in exactly half of the frequency in that singing technique than the clean tone does. The false cords are above the vocal folds, but they vibrate in half the frequency. So we get a second tone, which is exactly an octave below the pitch that we're singing. And so that's why the false chord sounds always darker and heavier than the pitch that we're singing. So if you were to sing that only with your true chords, you would end up in a subharmonic, which is like a slower vibration on that level, but it does not add the mass of the. So it's always a question of like, which mass is vibrating in what matter to create a certain sound. And this is why I look at the voice as one thing, and find connections to clean singing, which makes everything easier, because people think, oh, one is harsh vocals and one is clean vocals. Like, no, it's one thing. Like it's all connected. So I think like this is like a very healthy picture that you have of your harsh vocals. It's like, of course, there is an equivalent in clean pitch. Yeah.
I mean, then if we're talking about like if we have critical mass on one end and high res on the other, of course we have very different kind of singing. But would you, let's see how to phrase this. How would you say that your singing differs between those two bands?
Well, first of all, high res is a lot more like, it's more work to sing high res than to sing critical mass, even though it might sound the opposite way. But in critical mass, I'm more or less using tone coloring as far as brightness and darkness to create the different sounds, especially live. I probably sang within 1 octave of my voice range. And in high res, since it's more melodic and I depend more on the vocal melody that's in it, and there's a lot more like clean approach to it. I have to do a lot like harder work. I have a lot larger range of pitch that I'm singing that in. Plus, there's no time to breathe in high res. I can take one breath in the beginning and then I have to sing the whole thing. There are so many vocals in high res, so that is that. And of course, in critical mass, the musical structure and also the melodic structure leaves for me as a singer a little bit more freedom than I have in high res. I could sing in high res like I sang in critical mass, but that would kind of like clash. In fact, in terms of genre, I can't do that. So otherwise I would destroy the whole momentum of the music. So yeah, it's a different approach and underlying strategy of singing, I would say.
So you would say that it is a, I mean most people who listen now, they probably know the distinction like between like different kinds of metal, but for those who aren't, I mean, would say that you were going from critical mess, sorry, not the critical mass, that's astrophysics. Would you say that it was a big leap musically?
Yes.
Yes. So I mean, it would be like going from singing Schubert-Lieder to Wagnerian operas.
I have never tried that leap, but maybe yes. I think it's I don't know. Maybe it's the difference of playing an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar. It's both as a guitar, but the way it's played feels different. And also writing both things feels different. Critical mass feels like writing rhythm patterns, and Hi-Res feels like sometimes rhythm patterns, but more melodies and, you know, riffs and runs, and not so much in Critical Mass. I felt like my counterpart was Benny, our drummer. In Hi-Res, I feel my counterpart is Lucas, our guitarist. So this is where my orientation is. And also, and this is kind of funny because Adrian, I had a really nice chat with Adrian a while ago, and we were exchanging something like she was having some questions about harsh vocals and my approach, and I was asking her about melodies and stuff like that. And she said like she thinks in terms of what's in the foreground, the background, and the middle ground of the song, and how do you where do you put yourself? So I look at it as if it were an orchestration, and where do I want to be? And so when I'm in Critical Mass, I'm between. I'm never in the foreground. I'm more like between where the bass is, maybe, like in terms of where I put myself, where I see myself. And then in Hi-Res, I'm more between guitars or in the foreground. So
could you give an example of like the for people who haven't heard, like the Critical Mass, typical Critical Mass growl?
in typical Critical Mass, well, sound-wise, it's probably pretty close, but the handling is different. So, oh, I haven't sang this song in such a long while. But like, to give you an example, I start with Hi-Res, and then maybe something comes into my brain that I can think to. Under fire, we must die to be reborn. So it's harsh, but it leaves out a lot of like melodies, and I carry that sound more. And in Critical Mass, it would be something like with every day that rains out. So it's more like mouse shape and very unnatural sounding. I have these kind of approaches on Hi-Res as well, but like as far as, yeah, I think you heard the difference. It's like a different style.
Because it sounds to me, and I have been digesting a lot of your music these last couple of days. It seems like, even though we so far only have one Hi-Res album, but I think there's a second one coming up pretty soon.
Yes.
But even in that album, it seems like you're kind of let loose in another way, like technically, like you're widening your vocal horizons a bit, using more different kinds of techniques. So like this genre or like subgenre is more allowing music-wise in what kind of noises and extreme noises we're making. At least that's how I see it.
Maybe the way I sang it, but as for allowing, I would not say so. For allowing, I would even say that the heavier the music is, probably like if you play in a melodic deathcore band, you probably have the largest variety of acceptable sounds that define that genre nowadays, I would say, because there's from clean singing to the most disgusting pig squeals and everything, and tunnel throats. There's everything in it, and the quicker you can get from one extreme to the other, the better. So it's definitely my favorite genre at the moment. But yeah, not so much for allowing.
Allowing was probably not the best way to phrase it, but like
what I allowed for myself. That's what I probably.
Yeah, and I mean, so in a way, if I remember correctly, the first Cripper album was like 2006-07, something like that.
Yes, I think 2006. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, in a way, you of course we all, if we're not stagnant and boring, we all develop. And I mean, this is quite a couple of years, like 16, 17 years of recording music. And of course we get better. So to me, when I've been doing like discography listening on the Britta timeline, it seems like you're allowing yourself to do more of the stuff that you master along the way.
Sure.
At least that's how I hear it.
I agree, and plus, the biggest change between the last record of Critical Mass and the first record of Hi-Res was not so much a change of mind or something, but it is I started teaching professionally 9 to 5. So
Yeah.
I have never sung more in my life since before I was teaching. And so when the last record of Critical Mass came out in 2019, right after that, I made my half-time hobby a full-time profession. And then the pandemic hit, and I had 65 students, and I was not playing shows and not touring. So I was just teaching so many different people, and they asked me so many different questions, and nothing has ever made me better in such a short time span than teaching others. So when I read your story today, Student Appreciation Day, and that they make you better, 100%. It's like the questions I get from my students, I could never ever in my life come up with all these questions myself. So I'm thankful for all these little learning opportunities. Like, I don't know, I have to look that up. I have to dive into that. And so like I'm constantly evolving. And that is the key thing between the last record of Critical Mass and the first of Hi-Res, I would say.
That's awesome. But it is noticeable, I would say. But it's also a very essential thing that you're saying about the teaching thing, because having that kind of humble approach, like, okay, I don't know this, but I will find out, and then I will let you know. Not being the kind of douchebaggy, know-it-all, asshole.
Yeah.
Like being, looking down at your students in a way, like having the philosophy that you describe, like I'm learning from my students, is the best way, I think, to both learn yourself, but also to be a good teacher.
I agree, and the reason why I know that is because I had these teachers in singing.
Yeah.
So my very first vocal teacher, she was great in many ways, but when she heard what I wanted to sing, she was so against it, and she thought she knew it all just because she tried it once. She made like and she said, no, you can't do that. I'm like, no, you know what? You can't do that. And don't you tell me what I can't do. So that's what I think now. This was not what I thought back then, because I thought, oh, wow. And so many people tried to tell me you cannot do that healthily. But I said, I know all these people who do that. So what's the thing? And like to think like some students of mine, they sing stuff. If I sang it like they sing it, I would lose my voice and be hoarse, or like, I don't know, I would injure myself, and they don't. So I feel like, I don't know how you do it. Don't touch it. Do it.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
you don't feel any strain on your voice. Like, do it. Like, it's like whatever. Like, how do you do that? Can you explain?
Yeah, and for me, I have many students who sing and perform way better than I do. But I'm a pretty decent voice teacher. I can help them out with other things and improve in this or that way. But many of them do stuff that I couldn't do. But speaking of teachers, I had the opposite, and I saw recently that she just joined in and is watching. Anna-Lena, a teacher of mine who was at the conservatory, or like the Academy of Music, and I was studying classical music, but she's always been this very curious lady, and she was like, I heard that you were doing all this kind of weird stuff. Can you bring some of that for the next lesson? And so she was like the opposite, and it wasn't. And it wasn't really the extreme voices, but it was like Dream Theater and all of that. And she was like, ooh, time to learn something new, and being like 60 years or whatever, but still like something new, finally. So being that kind of a teacher is like what I try to aim to do, or to be.
And to
rather.
stay curious and to stay fascinated.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that person doing? Like, wow.
Yeah. That I'm very happy that I jumped on the harsh vocal train eventually, because it was kind of, oh, this is how it is, and trying to do it in a real musical context, and really exploring. So this little timeline, or like the big timeline that you've had, I did the micro version of it, recording the album that I did recently. So but when I listen, I can listen to like the first song and something like that. Oh, like few noises, many noises.
Yeah.
Like different kinds. One thing that I'd like to ask you about, especially probably for high race, when you approach the song vocally, would you, or maybe, no, this might be a good, since we have the percussion view of Critical Mass and the more melodic view of high race, for both bands, big question out. When you approach the song and decide how to sing it, what kind of noises you do, like, do you mostly go for the lyrical content and adjust your sound because of the lyrical content, or because of the musical content?
Musical content. I sing gibberish.
In both?
In both. Like, I think when I started in Crippa, I wrote lyrics on a piece of paper and tried to somehow press that onto the song. And then I started to do it in a different way and go from sound and what fits the music and where's the flow. So for both bands, I have a demo. I go into my rehearsal room, I crank the music up loud, and I just phrase to it. And whenever I do that, like 2-3 times, something sticks. I call that throwing noodles onto the wall and see which one doesn't fall off. So then there is this da 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 sound, and then I go look for a word that is like da 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 da.
Yeah.
And then I kind of like this. There's a little piece of sand, and then you create a pearl out of it. So I never start in the upper left corner of the piece of paper and write down to the lower right corner. So I start somewhere in the middle, and I have bits and pieces, and I puzzle it together. And I record so many weird things on my phone, so I should never lose my phone. It's just like this is
like someone found it, like.
But the weird thing is, when you get to know your bandmates and you went through the process a couple of times, or when you're with singers who know what this is, and you send messages like, "Hey, what do you think of that? It's amazing." It's so funny. So yeah, that's the thing that I do. I go from sound to lyric.
That like so much of the stuff that we do, if it's taken out of context, it's just, you probably also get the messages sometimes in the middle of the night. "Hey, David, what do you think about this?" Yeah. And if someone else hears that, "Hey, David, what do you think about this?" Blah, it's like, what?
Yeah, and then you have a whole conversation, or especially with my students, they're like, "I think I mastered the sound we were just talking about. Is that correct?" And then I go back, try it a little bit more relaxed, so like, and then it goes back and forth. It's just a whole conversations, and then it's just like, and then high five, good job. What the hell?
No.
And then you're on a train, like me last week. And your headphones die, but you don't recognize it. You play all these sounds loud.
Also, for everyone listening, the way you demonstrated a little more tensed version and then a more relaxed version, just like that. That's also you know, in the finer details, that's very impressive. You know, just like that, just on the top of your head, just doing that. That's really, really cool. But that is one thing that I sometimes find hard when you have to demonstrate. I mean, it's not a super pedagogical way to do it, but sometimes, you know, you have to demonstrate for the student, like, this is how you do it.
Oh, I do that all the time, yeah.
But it's not super good, but it's in one way it's very clear for the student. But for your own voice, it's like, do it like this. Like, you're doing it like that. You should do it like this. And I can feel like,
Yeah, also like I try to exaggerate the unwanted part of what a student is doing and like over exaggerate it, and then sometimes we have like these sessions, we record them on Zoom or whatever, and then later you look at it.
Yeah.
The screenshots, and then with the students that you get to know better, you're like, hey, this is the best screenshot of you in 2023. Here's your collection. I'm like, what? Yeah, but I think it helps because to mirror a behavior so that they can read it from your own body and then see that they are doing like all the time, and then you sing like that, and then all of a sudden you just work on your posture instead of your voice, and then it comes out freely. It's pretty impressive to demonstrate that, or because I mean, whatever you try to learn, it's overwhelming in the beginning, whatever it is. So you cannot pay attention to all the details, and you don't know what is the important information that you're giving. So when I over-exaggerate it, probably like you do with your students, then it's pretty like, oh, now I see. So that's like, yeah.
Yeah. That the only thing I feel about that is like, those are the only times I can feel after teaching a lot, like when I feel, So for me, at least, when I don't have a problem with, you know, having screaming, since I teach both clean and screaming. I don't have a problem teaching screaming lessons the entire evening and having a clean vocal gig the day after. But I have to focus on not doing exactly that, you know, like illustrating and exaggerating bad behavior. That is like the only thing I have to, like, you know, be very mindful of teaching. What is the best thing about your voice?
The best thing about my voice is that that it allows me to express myself in a way that feels good for me. And I think that I think at the moment very, very content and happy with the ranges of sounds that I can make. So the variety, I feel like I have worked myself towards vocal freedom in harsh vocals. So what I can think in my head, usually I can sing it pretty quickly. So, and that's an achievement that I'm proud of because I worked hard for it.
Cool. And
what about your voice?
I probably something similar. I feel like I have the one who set the EQ on my voice was doing a pretty good job, I think. That's how I feel like when I sing, my default singing, when I just open up and I start to sing, at least for clean stuff, I usually like it immediately. I don't really have to, you know, change a lot of things. It probably like you. What happens is what I imagine. So that is what I like, and I like the there's a Swedish word, egaliserad. The sound is even throughout the clean register. So when I when I sing low stuff, it sounds almost like when I'm singing the high stuff. It's not like two different voices. It's you can hear that it's me singing. So it's not like I love Axl Rose, but it's not like, you know, because he has 7 different kinds of voices, you know. I mean, so that's what I like. I sound the same, and that is also something that I worked a lot for. But you know, I have a consistent sound throughout my range. That is what I like about my clean voice. About my harsh voice, there I have lots of stuff that I don't like. But I like about the harsh stuff. I like that I can enunciate really good, and that's like what people told me. Like, yeah, I can totally hear the lyrics, and that I like. But both because of the pronunciation of the consonants, but also the vowels. So it's not like worst case scenario death metal growler. The vowels sound the same because they only have one vowel. That, and sometimes I call these people not growlers but vowlers because they have
Brötchen singers.
Brötchen singers. Warum?
Yeah, Brötchen is what we call a small piece of bread, like
a
baguette, but a small Brötchen, and everything they sing sounds like Brötchen.
Ah, love that. I was kidding that, you know, we should do all of this in my kind of fake German. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch, aber nicht so viel. Ich habe in Deutsch, ich kann singen aus Deutsch, aber spreche nicht so gut.
I think you sound pretty good when you speak German. Like, it's very understandable and it all makes sense. So it's not fake German, it's real German.
Danke. Ich habe in Schule gelernt und wann ich war 15 Jahre alt, ich habe in einem Fischgeschäft gearbeitet im Sommer.
In einem Fischgeschäft?
Ja. Und wir haben der war jeden Tag wir haben deutsche Touristen. Alte deutsche Touristen kommt in einen Bus.
Bus?
Like, ja, also wir Scholle 149 per Kilo. 36 bitte.
The funny voice message that I sent you a couple of days ago when you invited me was about fish. Fischers Fresse? Fish, frische Fische?
Yeah.
What I sent you, that's about fish. It's a tongue twister in German.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then, of course, you know, when you study classical stuff, you always get to sing "Wir reitet zu spät durch Nacht und Wind." You know, all of that stuff. Im wunderschönen Monat Mai. All of that weird.
Nein!
Yeah. So when it comes to harsh vocals, I like that I can make the lyrics understandable. So what is is there anything with your voice that you feel like I need to work on this, or I would love to master this or that, or like I would like to improve doing this or that?
I would like to improve that, especially on the beginning of a tour. I find it very difficult to pace myself. The longer the tour goes, the easier it is to pace myself. But then I'm so excited and I just really want to go out there and punch everyone in the face with my vocals, and then I overpace, and then it's just like, oh, that wasn't good. So this is something that I try to, you know, meditate into myself. Like, I will not overpace. That's something. Other than that, actually not so much. I feel like, especially over the last 5 years or so, I have kind of found a work routine to how to approach a new song that I need to learn, how to approach the difficult task of making a song that you performed on a record singable in a live situation in a healthy way and stuff like that. So I have like strategies.
That little problem.
That little problem. Yeah. I found a good strategy for that, and also when I'm not lazy and I put in the work, it works, and that's fine. So just to sometimes my high-pitched harsh vocals are a little bit too sharp in the overtones, and I try to stay a little looser in the soft palette, where I tend to get a little tense, too tense for that, but that's just like nitpicking. I must say, at the moment, I'm really, really happy with my voice overall, which is a good
That's all.
thing. And
Yes.
it's probably goes away somehow, but
Yeah.
but not now.
Yeah, but I mean that is I mean that's a enormous topic on its own, but like the kind of, you know, deep diving a little bit into screaming online, the stuff that I see is the anxiousness and the weird kind of twisted thoughts about perfectionism that kind of makes people so anxious that they go, all right, I'm gonna try it. No. And you know, they okay, that was probably and then they spend like 2 minutes discussing what was probably wrong, and then no, wait, that was I got sun in my eye, I you know, or like, oh, my toe hurt, or whatever. And like, you know, just doing stuff, and sometimes, you know, allow yourself like, good job, and I feel that if you get rid of some of that anxiousness, like we did when we didn't know that we sucked back in when people online couldn't tell us because there was no online. You know, allowing yourself to suck a little bit in your own private little bubble, and also congratulating yourself and feeling a little bit fulfilled, like I do good shit, and feeling good about it. I think that is probably more valuable than 5 additional hours of practicing.
Yes, I agree with you. I try to encourage my students to, if they feel a certain fear or anxiousness to hurt themselves, or that they are imperfect or something like that, I invite them to let the fear be there and have the conscious decision to sing with fear, but to sing. And then all of a sudden, this kind of like fear body, it kind of like shrinks, and then it walks off because there's nothing more to fear. It's like you don't have to be fearless to sing. You can sing with fear, and then all of a sudden, like the fear shrinks.
It's blinded by fear. At the gates. Because because exactly that is what's, you know, commonly defined as bravery, doing something while being afraid or a little. And most of the time when we do, or at least for me, when I'm still nervous almost every time I perform a little bit, but everyone who is, they always say, well, it was the first song and then it kind of, you know, went away, because that's, you know, once you just do it, you get rid of those like stress hormones and everything that builds up, and it feels better. And just now I sound like an old man again, but the kids of today, they don't do enough. They think like they spend like 70% of the time thinking about what they're gonna do. What is this called? What's this laryngeal blah blah blah? What was this? Instead of like just okay, like if you were in the gym, 10 more reps, do it 10 more times, and then we can talk about how it felt and what was going on.
Don't interrupt yourself all the time, and don't judge yourself, because especially when a teacher is there, I think the biggest advantage of having a teacher is that you don't have to judge yourself. You can just go and then leave the judgment to someone else, and then they can go, okay, this was like here and there, and then like, on this level you were brilliant, on this level there's room for improvement, whatever. But this is like the job of a teacher is like to prevent injury, but at the same time like be your guidance through your chaos.
And I always say that I promise to tell you if it sounds like shit. You know, I promise. As soon as it sounds like shit, I'm gonna tell you. and most of the time you don't have to.
Yeah.
And also, I always say, well, if I tell you it's good, it's good. I'm not lying. Especially, you're paying me. Why would I lie? Like, if I say it's good, it's good. What would you say is the worst thing about being a harsh vocalist, or like a harsh singer, or a singer in general?
The worst thing about being a harsh vocalist. Um, hmm. I'm thinking of anything that could be a bad thing about being a harsh vocalist. I think nothing. What is bad about being a harsh vocalist? It's a wonderful instrument to play. No, there's nothing. Nothing bad comes to mind. It's just a wonderful thing to do.
All right. What? Tell me some wonderful things about being a harsh vocalist, and why should people try it?
Well, first of all, I have read in a scientific paper that when you scream, that's not limited to harsh vocals, also to clean screaming, that your brain is not able to feel fear in that specific moment. So whenever you think of people like going into a battle and they have these battle cries, probably, and that's a guess, this is because it's a natural happy pill for your brain. Because my students, they tell me, like, whenever I scream a long time, or when I'm in a lesson with you, I feel better afterwards. I'm like, it can't be me. It needs to be the screaming. And then that's why I Googled that, and then I came across that. So it kind of blew my mind when I thought that. So screaming makes you happy. That's definitely a good thing.
It makes you
And
happy. It takes the fear away.
Yeah. Who screams cannot experience fear in this at that very moment, at least. And I'm happy for all the fearless moments these times. So, and also, there seems to be no end to how many different sounds you can make. So I'm screaming for 22 years now, and I have I'm not worried about that this is the end of my color palette that I will learn in my in my singing. So there's always just like, oh, that sounds cool, let me try that, and then like adding bits and pieces. So yeah.
I haven't actually seen this question in any interview, but I assume you've got it. Do you ever feel like using clean stuff? I mean, there's, of course, I've heard in songs that are like more speaking and some clean stuff, but do you ever, because that is like a big door to open, I feel. Like a bigger one than doing a different kind of screaming or adjusting a screaming sound. How do you feel about clean stuff? Is it something, I mean, do you get drunk and sing Celine Dion at karaoke?
Yes, I do.
You know, yeah.
Until they find out that I'm a harsh vocalist, so they give me all the crazy shit to sing. So yeah, but I do that, and I am like, I can sing clean, but not half as good or anywhere as professional as my harsh vocals have developed, because I have worked on them more. But on the upcoming high-res release, there may or may not be clean singing, maybe. So it's a really big deal for me, not because I don't dare to sing in a clean way, but to mix vocals of myself that I feel are not on the same level as other vocals that I could pick for that particular part. So it took me a long time to bring myself up to a level where I could do that, and many people, Adrian being one of them, helped me a little bit on that path. And there are many people that contributed little parts of that puzzle that I was maybe finally brave enough to put clean vocals on a record, but that's not a promise because I don't want to talk about that. No, about a new record that might be coming out. That's not, that's
That's like a cliffhanger for everyone to check out the new Hi-Race album as soon as it comes out. There may or may not be.
They may or may not be, and maybe there even are some other surprises that might or might not be found on this record. Yeah,
because that's very interesting.
I definitely did some stuff on the record that I felt not safe doing, but I did it anyway. Yeah.
So you're brave.
Yeah, I pushed my comfort zone, and I was just like, "Hello, comfort zone from the outside. I'm here."
Do you? I feel that sometimes I have problems treating myself as a student.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the awareness to treat yourself as a student when you record and when you play and when you sing?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Especially when I'm really stressed out about something, or under a lot of time pressure, when something is really, I don't know, then I feel like I should take a step back, take 10 minutes and then do it, and that feels very difficult. Other than that, I try to be my best friend when it comes to vocals. This is also pretty new for me because I need to beat myself up for bad singing all the time internally. And I think, yeah, that's over the last years that I've been teaching so much that that's way better. So maybe that's also why I'm more confident in new singing situations, probably. But yes, I sometimes have access to my teaching abilities, and sometimes I don't, especially on the beginning of a tour when I cannot pace myself. I could slap myself on the butt for that.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, very recently I had a lot of problems with my passaggio, like the mid-high range.
Mm-hmm.
I sounded like a 14-year-old boy, in during the voice change. Whenever I sang around it was like all the time, and I was a little pissed off. And it was, not like a one-day thing. It was like a couple of weeks where I was, starting to get worried. And then, not once did I start to treat myself like a student until, when I had a lesson, I talked with another student. I was like, well, I've had this problem, blah, 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 blah. And they said, well, why don't you try all the stuff that we do?
Killed by a student.
Yeah, I was like, oh, all right. And then stuff kind of clicked into place. I realized I was, slouching, and I was, but the one thing that actually changed it was like a couple of weeks ago, I got a cold. And when the cold was over, it was like, everything's back to normal.
Crazy.
Yeah. Weird. But let's see.
What's the best vocal advice that you could give yourself if you were your student?
That's a hard one. I would probably say the singing starts in your brain. So first you have to practice the art of imagining, musical imagination in your mind, and vocal imagination in your mind, especially when it's clean singing. If it's a melody, you have to be able to imagine it in your mind. But also, for harsh vocals, like being able to hear the da da da, whatever gibberish it is you're singing. Like, you have to start here. If you can't do it silently in here, then you will probably not be able to do it with your mouth. That is probably the main advice that I would give. That you have to, because there are countless of jokes about stupid singers, but singers not able to to sing or to think. So I think we have to prove them wrong and practice the musicality, practice the musical part of our brains to be able to imagine what it is we like to release to the world. Because you see guitarists all the time, they can sit around with their air guitar like, and we need to be able to do the same thing, but we don't have the guitar. We have to. This was like a couple of years ago, and it was actually for a classical thing. It was Die Spatzenmesse from a lesser-known mass from Mozart, and I was doing the lead tenor part. And I was sitting with my iPad, and I was sitting in the sofa, and I was reading the sheet music, and my wife was sitting next to me, and she was watching TV. And suddenly, I was just like Scheiße! And she was like, "What? What did you do? What?" I was like, "I sang wrong." What is sang wrong? You haven't been singing. You've been sitting silent for 15 minutes, looking at your iPad. But I was singing in my mind all the time, and then I sang wrong, the same way as a drummer might play their air drums wrong. And for me, it was just as real as singing it wrong. Air singing, yes, Rav is singing. Yeah, air singing.
I think that's an absolute superpower if you can sing in your head. I can mouse shape in my mind. With harsh vocals, I think I'm very precise with that. I feel like I know exactly the placement of the sound and the overtone that I need to go for, and I can mouse shape. With clean singing, I can't do that. I'm still learning. Yeah, so I'm not on that expert level. But
you could probably feel like I didn't open up enough.
Yes, but I have to hear it to become better. And with harsh vocals, I can imagine that. And also sometimes it's weird. I can even do that with other singers. I hear them and I wow, they have a very prominent whatever part here, or it's like more wide and not so narrow and weird.
Yeah.
Are we weird?
Yes, we in many ways we are very weird. What would you say is like the one thing when you get new students, what is the most common thing, the most common misconception they have about harsh vocals, or like the most common thing that they are doing wrong?
The most common thing that they are doing wrong is how they exhale. But they make the same mistake probably in clean singing as in harsh vocals, because they might not realize how the diaphragm is actually working. So we start there, because I think the best advice I can give any harsh vocalist is to learn how to breathe properly. Any mistake you make in breathing, you will feel in your voice, because when your throat starts to work too hard, because it needs to even out what you are missing here. Yeah. So most people try to press the air out, and it's not about pressing the air out, it's about keeping air in. Yeah. And just not letting it all out. So that's like, breathing support is holding air back and not pushing air out. So that's the biggest misconception about harsh vocals. They try to like make a sit-up motion and put their head forward and then the sound out in exaggerated way. So like, and this is like
Yeah.
no, you interrupt everything in terms of airflow. So that this is that. And as far as harsh vocals, they think they need to be loud. They can be loud, but they don't have to be loud. There is an individual noise BPM,
Decibel.
individual decibel loudness level to everyone, and you have a microphone when you scream. Most people don't scream at the campfire and need to be very loud so everyone can hear them. So we have amplification that we can use. So yeah, those two things, I think.
So like proper breathing, but not as in always more breathing, but like proper breathing and but because I was thinking about, because back when we talked about like opening up the big door to clean singing, because I mostly experienced the other way around, the classically trained singers who also wants to growl, or like make harsh vocals. And the thing I notice is that they sometimes push too much, and eventually all the true vocal folds or the harsh vocal, they're just, fuck it, we're opening up to let the air through, because the air pressure is so big.
Yeah.
And then we get to kind of
exactly. It's very tiring for the voice.
And like if I were now we're into fine details, but if I were, because this is how I hear many people starting out, like what would you say is wrong? What am I doing wrong?
Well, I think it sounds like you are forcing air out as instead of keeping air in. And I have a picture that I like to use when I hear something that you are doing. So imagine you have a large glass of water and it's full, and you want to get the water out. Do you care about what the water is doing, or do you care about what your hand is doing in terms of angle? So you have a different angle, and this is how you control the water flowing out. So, and I don't pay attention to the water at all. I pay attention to what I'm doing here. And when you think of your air having to push it out, you have your focus on the wrong spot, because your angle of how much air you let out is in an open rib cage. And when you sit up straight and you inhale and you exhale in one motion without like
Yeah.
then we have momentum here. And you can also alter between clean sound and harsh sound so that your clean vocals come together. And it should feel almost the same. So
that's very interesting. Because what we discussed earlier with the soft onset, or like the breathy onset, or whatever we want to call it, because that kind of allows you to adjust the true and false vocal folds to the airflow and not the other way around.
Yes, exactly. But the that's a kind of like a step ladder into fry singing. So this is nothing I would do for false chord singing. This doesn't make sense. But for fry singing, to find that momentum where the chords make this weird motion that they have to do in fry, sometimes the closure is a good way to approach that before a student can do like a yay. It's very difficult to keep that kind of weird tension on the vocal cords.
yeah, because it is like anatomically it is an unnatural thing. It's not like something that we need to do to survive.
Oh yes, that's true. But like, kind of like we don't have it in a stable version. We have it in an unstable version when we do things, and we stabilize on a level that is not stabilized in any kind of other situation. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have the coughing, like you know, when you have something stuck in your throat, like we have that, but we don't have that.
Yeah.
That is unnatural. The first kind of noises are natural, as in survival.
Yeah, but think of babies.
Yeah.
They, but they are death metal screaming throughout the day. Like they do these long screams that we hear. So whenever you hear your baby scream, like, okay, how are you doing that? Tell me now. So we had it once, and then we kind of like the one thing. The one scream the parents are happy is the first scream, and after that, most of them tell their kids, be quiet.
Yeah. I had my first kid. She was born. Now we're into way out in the periphery, but she was born way too early. So we had a and then nothing. Everything was fine. Eventually, she was, you know, but it was like, I would have loved for her to scream a little bit more those seconds, because it was scary as fuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we've passed 90 minutes, and I think that we could easily do 90 more. But I try to keep things around this kind of hour. Yeah. Because if people want to rewatch it, if they see it's like a 2-hour video, they will be like, not like, because I will probably post it online in various places. But we've discussed a lot of things. We've been into the vocal journey of Britta, and how it came to be that you were teaching, and also like the reverse engineering of vocals, and in other aspects. What I'd also like to mention is that the tenacious way of it's a rare thing to have the knowledge in teaching and performing, but also the kind of business side of things. So for me, it's like a little epic triangle here, because one of those doesn't really equal the other. So because I mean the course that you've done and the attention it has gotten. If anyone gets online on YouTube and starts to just search for your name, the amount of views, if you collect them on the different podcasts and videos and stuff that you have done, it's just mind-boggling.
Is it? I have never done that. Wow.
Yeah, because I've done this the entire week.
Okay, cool.
As a preparation. So I mean, all the different interviews you've done, or like the how to scream, or like extreme vocal warm up with Britta, extreme blah 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 blah. There is, I mean, many of them have tens of thousands of views.
Okay, cool.
That's really cool.
Oh my god, I'm an ignorant person. I need to look that up. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So I mean, there is these are, and I mean the ability to kind of reach through the buzz of everything that's shown to us online is also a skill. And perhaps that was kind of what I was asking, like if this was a character trait of you, but because this also needs like a methodical way of thinking and working, and like a long-term way of thinking. So that is also something that I think is really cool about you and your like online personality, or whatever you want to call it, online presence, that you're able to kind of reach through with what it is you're doing.
I have like, thank you for phrasing that and letting me know, because my own perception of my online presence is like, wow, I'm chaotic. I don't have no idea what I'm doing. Like everyone else is so professional, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know. Like I have not perceived myself in that way. Thank you for. Maybe I need to find that perspective and look at it that way, because
Yeah,
I
and
have.
just, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we
Cool.
haven't even discussed the Elchku, all of that. How with the moves and all of that, but
Leave that for my tavern talk. How about that?
yes, a tavern talk for next year.
Yes, tavern. I'm planning, like, I don't want to make any promises right now, but I'm planning 10 tavern talks next year. And so like, yeah, I think sometime around November or December, I will invite people and see who on my list wants to join me, and then definitely you are definitely on my list.
Let's do that. All right, I want to thank you once again very much for joining in on this, especially since it was like this short notice kind of thing. And it was, I mean, we've been walking past each other, you know, and next to each other, but with a little distance in between for a while. And we've actually talked before in other circumstances, but it was really nice to sit down and have a talk with you like this.
Likewise, thank you so much. And yeah, it's like you're a super sympathetic guy, and I really love everything about your vocals. Like, do the harsh vocals. Yeah, do it, implement it.
I will. And
I'm
next time you're in Copenhagen, I will come.
Yes, please.
Yeah. All right, and each and every one, do what Britta is about to do, and look her up on YouTube and see the amount of views. And thank you to each and every one who joined in. I will probably upload this eventually. Have a nice evening, and see you soon.
Have a nice evening, and thanks everyone for joining in. It was so much fun. Bye-bye, David.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.